This presentation addresses allergen management. Hello, my name is Ursula Bordewig-Dell and I work at Münster University of Applied Sciences. There I teach biochemistry and food analysis. In this context, I am particularly concerned with food allergies and allergen management. I am therefore very pleased to be able to contribute this topic to the development of teaching materials on food safety as part of an international Erasmus Plus project. Allergies are overreactions of the immune system that are triggered by so-called antigens. These are mainly proteins against which a defense reaction takes place, in which antibodies of the IgE class are involved in most cases. Typical symptoms, which usually occur very quickly, include redness, itching, swelling of the mucous membranes, nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, a drop in blood pressure, or in worst case, anaphylactic shock. Not all symptoms occur at the same time, but they vary from allergen to allergen and from person to person. Often, those affected find the symptoms unpleasant and annoying. But when the mucous membranes in the airways swell, suffocation can occur and anaphylactic shock can also be fatal. In Europe, food allergies affect about 6% of the population. The actual prevalence varies from country to country, as do the main allergens to which people react. In the worst case, even the smallest concentrations of an allergen can cause severe reactions. Allergen management should therefore be part of good hygiene practice to protect those affected. Food business operators should be able to recognize the allergic potential of their products, both in terms of ingredients and processing aids, and the risk of unintentional contamination. Clear labeling of allergenic ingredients is very important to inform consumers. This way, those affected can avoid buying and consuming products that could be dangerous for them. EU Regulation number 1169/2011, the so-called Food Labeling Regulation, summarizes 14 groups of ingredients that either belong to the main allergens in the EU or cause food intolerances. These ingredients must be highlighted in the list of ingredients, for instance by bold print or italics. If there is no list of ingredients, as is the case with loose goods, for example, the allergens must still be clearly declared, for example by putting up a sign or displaying a brochure with the relevant information. If the allergenic ingredient is already apparent from the name of the product, the special labeling of the allergen can be omitted. For example, milk in milk chocolate would not have to be printed in bold type, nor would nuts in hazelnut cream. This slide lists the 14 main allergen groups from Annex 2 of Regulation number 1169/2011. It is important to note the addition and products thereof. For example, not only the whole egg must be labeled as an allergen, but also an egg yolk, egg white, or lecithin obtained from egg. In the case of cereals and nuts, the types requiring labeling are specified even more precisely. Food ingredients with allergenic potential can be identified very well. However, unintentional contamination, which can occur during storage and transport of a food product, but also during its processing or use, poses a major challenge. If the same storage and transport containers are used for different products, there is always the risk that despite cleaning, traces remain that can be transferred to the next product. The same applies if one and the same production line is used for several products or different products are used on the same work surface in a restaurant. Mix-ups and incorrect labeling are also conceivable. This and other contamination possibilities are listed in the Codex Alimentarius CXC 80/2020. This brief provides a code of practice on food allergen management for food business operators. The aim is to avoid accidental contamination with allergens. To this end, food, work surfaces, containers, transport vehicles, and equipment of any kind should be thoroughly inspected by competent personnel. Samples and swabs should be taken for laboratory examination. A relatively inexpensive way to test for the presence of allergens is protein detection. If no proteins can be detected, no allergens are present in detectable amounts. The enzyme-linked immunosorbent assay, ELISA, or PCR, is suitable for specific detection. In some cases, a lateral flow test can be used as a rapid test. To protect themselves from the consequences of product liability, many manufacturers use the voluntary labeling "may contain traces of." This labeling leads to great uncertainty among consumers, because persons suffering from allergies will not buy a product labeled in this way, even if it is presumably allergen-free. Due to this fact, a mandatory trace labeling would be eligible. In Australia and New Zealand, the Vital 3.0 concept for trace labeling is used. Here, limit values are determined, so-called EDO1 values, below which, according to current scientific findings, 99% of all allergy sufferers tolerate a food without developing allergic symptoms. If the allergen content is above the limit, the allergen must be labeled. The limits known up to now are shown in the table. This concept could also form the basis for mandatory trace labeling within the EU, but questions are still open. For example, the case has not been clarified if the allergen traces are unevenly distributed in a product. If, for example, milk chocolate is only contaminated with traces of nuts in some pieces, but not in whole. There is still a need for further research here. Until then, trace labeling will continue to be voluntary. Thank you for your attention. On the following slide, you will find some scientific articles that were used to create this presentation. Furthermore, I recommend taking a look at Regulation EU number 1169/2011 and the Codex Alimentarius CXC 80/2020. You're also welcome to take a look at the other teaching materials created by our Safe Org Food Working Group. There you will find many tips and information on the topic of food safety in the production and processing of organic food. Goodbye.